Intro. The skyline is black with smoke. The air, thick with dust and fear, carries the sound of explosions and the cries of the fleeing. This isn't a scene from a forgotten history. This is Gaza City. Today. Hook. A voice cuts through the chaos, weary and strained. We were told to leave, but where do we go? Every street we turn down, there is more destruction. There is nowhere safe. This is the reality for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians as Israeli forces press on with a major military assault on Gaza City, using what the army itself has called unprecedented force. This offensive is triggering a wave of panic, a desperate, chaotic exodus that threatens to push an entire population past its breaking point. For nearly 2 years, they have endured relentless bombardment, and for those who remain, the last lifelines are now collapsing. Section 1. The City Under Siege. The current operation is a terrifying new chapter in a conflict that has ravaged this land since the Hamas attacks on Israel in October 2023. Israeli forces are advancing on the city's center from multiple directions, pounding neighborhoods like Sheikh Radwan and Tel Al-Hawa. The stated objective is to apply pressure on Hamas. The method involves infantry, tanks, and relentless airstrikes, including the demolition of entire high-rise buildings. The scale of destruction across the Gaza Strip was already staggering. Now the focus is a block-by-block demolition of what remains of Gaza's main urban center. Since mid-September, the Israeli military estimates it has struck over 850 targets in a single week. The UN Human Rights Office has condemned the wanton destruction, warning it appears to be focused on causing a permanent demographic shift, which is tantamount to ethnic cleansing. For the roughly 600,000 people who remained in the city as of early September, this military strategy has turned their home into an inescapable labyrinth of fire and ruin. Section 2. The Unending Exodus. Panic is a tangible thing. You can see it on the roads leading out of Gaza City. Over the past month, new and reiterated evacuation orders have rained down, delivered through leaflets, text messages, and automated phone calls. The message is simple and brutal. Flee south. Since the beginning of August, an estimated 450,000 people have fled the city. The displacement is accelerating at a terrifying rate. The United Nations recorded over 246,800 displacement movements since the middle of August, with about half of those, roughly 125,600, occurring in just 1 week in September. On some days, as many as 60,000 people were forced to move in just 72 hours. But this is not a single journey to safety. It's a story of perpetual motion. Nearly the entire population of Gaza, over 1.9 million people, is already displaced, many multiple times over. Families who sought refuge in Gaza City are now being told to run once again. They are being pushed towards designated zones like Al-Mawasi, an area already dangerously overcrowded. UNRWA's Commissioner General was blunt. There is no safe place in Gaza, let alone a humanitarian zone. The journey itself is an ordeal. With fuel scarce, securing vehicle transportation can be an impossible expense for most. The result is a harrowing spectacle of families fleeing on foot, dragging carts with whatever they could salvage, a grueling trek that can last for hours. They walk past the rubble of their lives into a future where, as one UNRWA spokesperson warned, there are no places left to even set up a single tent. They are fleeing bombardment, only to face exposure, hunger, and disease in makeshift shelters on the streets. Section 3. The Certainty of Famine. For those fleeing and those who remain, the military assault is compounded by another slower killer: starvation. On August 22, 2025, after months of warnings, famine was officially confirmed in Gaza City by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, an initiative of the UN and global aid groups. UN experts have called it a man-made famine, deliberately engineered and perpetuated. All three thresholds, catastrophic hunger, acute malnutrition, and mass death, have been surpassed. The entire population of 2.1 million people is facing extreme hunger. Markets are nearly empty. Nutrition Partners identified about 28,000 cases of acute malnutrition in children under 5 in July and August alone. a figure exceeding the total for the first 6 months of 2025. As of mid-September 2025, at least 432 malnutrition-related deaths have been documented since the war began, including 146 children. The flow of aid, already a trickle, is being choked off. Humanitarian organizations accuse the Israeli government of systematically blocking aid. Since September 12th, a key crossing into northern Gaza has been closed, preventing food security partners from bringing in any food aid. This has led to chaos at distribution points, where desperate crowds are sometimes met with deadly force. Since May 2025, the Gaza Ministry of Health reports that over 2,500 people have been killed while trying to access aid supplies. Section 4. A system in collapse. A society can't function without a healthcare system. In Gaza, that system is shattered. The bombardment hasn't spared hospitals, clinics, or shelters. In a span of just 5 days in September, 11 UNRWA premises serving as emergency shelters for 11,000 displaced people were damaged by strikes. Over 90% of all UNRWA facilities in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed since the war began. The few hospitals still partially functioning are overwhelmed. They lack essential medicines, fuel for generators, and blood for the wounded. As of early September, over 15,600 critically ill patients require medical evacuation for care they cannot receive in Gaza. Yet evacuations are rare. Every week, women are forced to give birth outside of a hospital, risking the lives of both mother and child. The psychological trauma is incalculable. Children bear a disproportionate burden, living through constant displacement and loss. An entire generation is being scarred by a conflict that has killed over 540 aid workers since it began, making it one of the most dangerous places in the world for humanitarians. The very people trying to hold society together are being killed in the line of duty. Section 5. A world watching. The international community has been unable to stop the carnage. Multiple UN Security Council resolutions calling for a ceasefire have been vetoed. Just days after a UN Commission of Inquiry found that the government of Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, another ceasefire resolution failed. Humanitarian organizations like the International Rescue Committee continue to call for a ceasefire to protect civilians and allow for the safe delivery of aid. But the gap between what's needed and what's given is a chasm. Of the $4 billion requested for humanitarian needs in Gaza and the West Bank for 2025, only 24% had been dispersed as of early September. Limited tactical pauses and airdrops are described by aid groups as dangerously inadequate gestures in the face of a full-blown catastrophe. Meanwhile, the families of Israeli hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th remain in despair, their fate uncertain amid the escalating violence. The armed wing of Hamas has stated that the expansion of the Gaza City operation means Israel will not receive any captives alive or dead. The war, born from one horrific act of violence, now consumes everything in a self-perpetuating cycle of destruction. CTA. The sheer scale of this crisis can be hard to comprehend. The numbers are numbing, and the politics are complex. But behind every statistic is a human story of loss, fear, and a desperate will to survive. Understanding the full scope of this crisis requires ongoing attention. Subscribe for our continued coverage as we document the human stories behind the headlines. Conclusion. Gaza City is being emptied. Its people, already starved and displaced, are being forced onto roads that lead to nowhere safe. They are fleeing a city where entire blocks are being turned to rubble, where famine is a declared reality, and where the most basic lifelines of a civil society have been severed. This is not just a battle against a militant group. It's a crisis that has engulfed 2.1 million people. The story of Gaza today is one of unprecedented panic, of a population pushed beyond endurance, walking towards a horizon that offers no shelter, no safety, and no certainty of survival. It is the story of a people for whom the most urgent and most impossible question remains: where do we go now? Oh,